Starting the recording now. Okay, so we're going to do the claim cards again. Daniel is first up. Daniel, what's your claim today?
Spanking is beneficial to children.
Okay. Deb, do you want to be the question asker?
Okay.
Daniel's the interlocutor, and Deb will be the questioner.
Okay, so the claim here is that spanking is beneficial to children. First of all, do you agree with that statement?
I don't.
Okay. Let's start with some definitions here. First of all, let's define the first word there, spanking. How would you define spanking?
It's a form of corporal punishment. I think it's like, I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but I think it's, I would kind of have a broad definition for it, but I mean, usually the kind of association that I would have with it, would usually just be like hitting with either your hand or an object, like on the kids behind, I guess. That's usually but it can also come in other forms. Okay. But usually just hitting of some kind to prevent some sort of behavior.
Okay. And then also let's define children here at the end. So what's a child to you in your claim?
In my claim, I think it applies to just, anyone who you're taking care of, in general, because,
Is there an age limit?
I believe that this generally is a negative thing, among any age group, but usually when we talk about spanking, we talk about younger, like 12 and under.
How would you define children here? For you, children is?
Youth that are below the age of 18.
Okay, so spanking, hitting someone below the age of 18, and then of course the question is whether or not it's beneficial. How are you defining beneficial in your negative claim against this?
Okay.
You're saying spanking is generally not beneficial, but how would you define beneficial to you?
Okay. So I would say beneficial in this case is multiple things. One is preventing the action. Two is causing greater development to the child, making them, make better decisions and making them more equipped for the world around them. And then number three is like making sure that they're emotionally adjusted and all that sort of thing. And if we're defining it from those three things, then I would say that it does neither of those things well.
So you're kind of saying beneficial would be if it helps the child's development, if it keeps the child safe.
Yes,
I
if
think
it keeps
you've
them
said
from
that.
doing something
Okay.
that you don't want them to do, makes them well adjusted.
So let's get a confidence level on this one here. Spanking is beneficial children, with 100% being, yes, I believe that spanking is always beneficial to children, and 0% being, I think it's never beneficial to children. What is your confidence level in that claim?
5%.
5%. So you're really not believing that it's beneficial at all. Okay. So how did you come to believe that it's not beneficial? What evidence or experience have you had that makes you think it's not beneficial?
Okay. So recently, actually, I actually take college courses at Snow College. And I've decided to do an online program, and I'm getting my general associate's degree, right? And one of the courses that I took was a human development course that was actually talking about, specifically spanking and corporal punishment, to children and the actual effects of that. And it turns out that, a lot of the reading materials and the stuff that the materials literature that I researched in actually, I had to write a research paper on the topic, talking about, topics of early development. I decided to, research and write about, spanking, and how it could affect children. And I looked at multiple different studies that talked about this kind of punishment. There were different kinds of methodology used. One of them, talked about, like how it could be different in different cultures, how it could affect different cultures. But universally, it's been shown that across cultures, spanking has been associated with, like universally like negative effects on your children. A
So
part of it,
most of this evidence was actually stuff that you had gathered from
Yeah.
research while you were in college. So let me ask you this. Have you always felt this way, or did you feel differently about your position before you started attending college and doing this research?
So when I was like much younger, I thought that, maybe a little bit was okay. Like I thought, like for actually a while, and actually I thought a little bit maybe just like once or twice, like just very occasionally, before I took the course, that it was a good idea. Or like, maybe in some like really rare situations, just to teach your kids like, like, hey, you shouldn't be able to do this. But now that I'm, like truly thinking about it, now that I looked at the research, I'm starting to think that just as far as preventative methods, the only reason you actually would do it would, like in my eyes, I guess before, was to prevent you from doing things. But the actual evidence for them listening to their parents later on and following up was kind of shaky, because most of the time why they follow them is out of fear of like future physical punishment. And and since that thing obviously shouldn't be consistent, or else it would be child abuse, right? If you hit them every single time they did something wrong, right? So, it turns out that it's a very terrible form of punishment in just terms of them actually being responsive, because if they come to expect that that's the punishment, then they will only follow up if that's the actual punishment that happens.
So let me address your methods here again for just a moment. And that is that most of your claims here are coming from books that you read while you were in college. So I guess there's
I didn't read whole entire books about
so there's
spanking
a couple of
before.
questions that I have about that, and one is that one, how do you know that the books that you read are true, and do you think that there are other books that might disagree and have a different point of view?
I personally think that there might, because like actually, originally the course material that they served was a human development book made in 2019, and there are a few indicators to me to show the kind of the reliability of a source, and I've kind of gotten this mostly from like
How do you know that?
educators.
What is that reliability? I'm
So-
curious about those tools. How do you know?
So a lot of reliability actually, like actually in education, like recent school curriculums, especially like that in high school, try to teach you about how to look at sources and find out if they are reliable and stuff like that. That kind of put a framework for me, like a very base framework that allowed me to like understand, like kind of interpret, for myself, is this source reliable or not?
And do you think that the education system has ever presented things to you in the past that might not be true?
Yeah, of course, and that's what usually leads me to try and find, what's true myself. What
Jamie, can you close the door? I'm sorry. I forgot we're supposed to have it closed.
what usually helps me has to do with the way that they're telling it, what they're citing themselves, and the actual producer of the information, right? And so if you look, for example, the producer of the information, like, for example, like if you look at an article on a website, that talks about how this, certain product, how healthy, like, kind of natural alternatives to this product are beneficial, and how they're better for you and better for your skin, for your pores, whatever, than the other products. And they at the same time also sell natural products that might make you come to doubt the validity of their claim.
So where there's a vested interest in the person who's making the claim itself becomes questionable or not necessarily reliable.
Yeah.
And yet the people that that you have relied upon for your information, you think that there is no agenda, that they might have no benefit to themselves in promoting this information. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I found these, academic sort of papers in academic journals, and archives and stuff like that were open access and stuff like that. And what's actually really interesting is that the sources, the literature was actually really derivative off of each other, so they were building on each other's work, right? So a lot of papers, a lot of different studies cited, other different studies and built upon their work and said, oh, well, there was a weakness in this kind of study. We're doing a more, I guess, longitudinal test or whatever.
So you felt like there was some criticism of the other people enough that there was, it's not that everyone is patting each other's back.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm always bad on my closing statements here, so I'm not quite sure how to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's try to wrap it up in the next couple of minutes so we can get a few more in.
Okay.
So yeah, if that's all your questions, you say thanks for.
Yeah, I think it was like the kind of environment was very like it was very critical of their own methods, and a lot of them were actually very transparent about the limitations of certain studies and certain applications. And what that says to me is that these people who are conducting the studies have less so an agenda for enforcing this kind of value and more so for trying to find what's actually true.
Sounds like you've put some thought into that. Thank you, Daniel.
Can I ask one question before we finish up? And it is there anything you could learn that would make you raise your confidence up from a 5? You were at 5%, right? Is there any information you could learn or evidence you could see that would
more beneficial?
That would say, yes, I will go up.
So there could be multiple things. So I think that if newer, more comprehensive studies were produced, and if there was a more critical lens that was taken, I guess that was somehow higher or more comprehensive than the studies that I already seen.
So scientific studies that were from reliable sources that had a beneficial benefit.
Like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And if it said that there might be a benefit, because it's hard for me to think that there would be this new upcoming study that would just completely contradict everything. Like at first, I think what would convince me would be something that would be kind of like, hey, in some situations there actually would be a benefit, and here's those situations, right? And if it was more comprehensive and more like nuanced, I guess, then maybe I would think that hey, in some situations it might be appropriate.
Okay, so you're open and willing to change your opinion if you are presented with better evidence.
Yeah, because that was
convincing evidence.
Yeah, that was my sort of view before.
Yeah,
so,
that's great. Yeah, thank you. Let's do another one. Any
Just
volunteers?
one comment.
Yeah,
Seems
go
like
ahead.
he has a heavy reliance on authority as far as
Yes.
determining what is true, as
It's
opposed
true.
to spending 4 hours with a bunch of 2-year-olds. To me, that was right away. I'd be like, okay, well maybe I could go from 5% higher when I have a variety of my personal. 'Cause to me, personal experience is a great determiner.
True. I don't see myself raising kids anytime soon, so
Just
maybe
it's
I don't
another-
know.
Yeah, if you had that experience, maybe
Yeah.
well, maybe a little swab's not going to do too much damage. Okay. Any volunteers to go next? To be the interlocutor, to be the answerer?
I saw
Wanna
one
do
about
one?
burning sage, which
Oh,
I
yeah,
would
I'm
like to
interested
dive
to-
into
Okay,
because
let's
I
find
love
out.
burning sage.
You look
I
for
like
that.
the smell of sage burning on my chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Okay, cleanses living spaces. Now, I don't know if I would say.
Well, you can change it to whatever you want. Billy, would you like to be the question asker?
No.
You're not ready for that? Or Johnny or Dawn? Anybody want to ask questions? I'll do it if
You're
nobody
good
else.
at it.
Okay, so
Cleanses.
Melanie is going next,
believe
and
that.
I, Lisa, will be the question asker. Melanie is the interlocutor.
I will say
What's your
burning
claim?
sage cleanses my emotional body
I'm going to write down your claim.
or rebalance. Let's say cleanse. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you say it however you want to say it. Burning sage
Burning sage cleanses my emotional body.
cleanses
I know where
my.
you're gonna go with this.
So this is like a very personal, like it works
It's
for
a
me.
personal
Yeah,
belief.
because I went camping with my girlfriends, and we're all into these kinds of topics. And one of the girls started burning sage, and she just started going like this all over her body. And I was like, "What is she doing?" And so I tried it. I was like, "That feels really good." And so now I love sage. I cleanse my house with it.
Okay.
So
So can you say, is this accurate? Burning sage cleanses my emotional body?
yes,
That's
I,
your claim.
I'll make that claim.
Okay. Okay. So let's get some definitions straight here
Uh,
first.
shoot. Okay.
Sage. We'll just start at the beginning and go through. What do you mean? Is it the plant, dried sage?
It's a plant that has a
Okay.
unique smell when it burns.
When's it burn? So you actually light the sage plant on fire.
Yes.
Okay. So you're burning dried sage. And what do you mean by cleanses? Are you dirty and then you're clean afterwards?
That's the one word I knew I was going to get hung up on. It means it transforms, it changes. It makes something that feels dirty or discordant feel peaceful and balanced.
Okay, so it changes and transforms.
Yeah.
And in what way was that?
My emotions to a place of peace. It takes
Where-
from like a discordant discomfort over into peace and balance.
So from discord and discomfort
Subtle.
to peace.
Yeah.
And what you said something else? Or peace.
Balance, yeah.
Balance. Okay. And so what do you mean by your emotional body? So this is what cleanses means, right? Transforms, changes. It's kind of another word for.
Emotional body is just how I describe the emotional aspect of my being.
Okay, so not your physical body.
No, it would be my emotional body. Yeah.
So your emotions, your state of mind? I don't want to put words
I
in your mouth.
believe there's a mental, I would call it a mental body too, which is separate from the emotional
A
body.
mental body?
Yeah, so the mental body would be, and it's not a physical body, but it's
Is it the
more
same
like,
thing as emotional body?
No.
So there's an emotional body, physical body, and a mental body?
Yes.
Which
yeah, we
one
could
does
go into that too.
Which one does the sage clean? Or runs?
Emotional body.
Oh, not
Because
mental
I still
body.
have the same mental chatter, mental activity, but emotionally I do feel more transformed.
Okay, so you feel it transforms and changes the discord and discomfort in your emotions to peace and balance.
It's very subtle, but I would say yes, it has that effect on me.
Okay. And what's the process like? Can you describe like burning sage to cleanse your emotional body? Like what does that physically entail?
So you would light sage on fire,
Okay.
and you move it around, and then you start to smell it. And I also like the activity of movement. That's a very healthy feeling for me.
Mm-hmm.
So you do it to yourself.
I do it to myself.
So there's smell.
It's not someone else lighting it and doing that around you.
Or someone doing it around me
Okay.
even has a nice effect. I'll do it around my home. Before, if I feel anxiety before someone's coming over, or if I feel the energy or something, some sort of dense, or it's within my emotional body, then I would cleanse my house too, and I
Okay.
would feel better after.
So there's movement involved. You hold it in your hand and
The movement's not
move
as
it around.
important as maybe it's the smell.
But that's just to describe the physical activity of doing the
Yes.
sage burning.
Usually there's movement involved.
Okay. And you walk around, you're standing, sitting, laying.
Standing, sometimes sitting, sometimes it's just with my hands.
So it doesn't matter.
Often I walk around with it.
Okay. Okay, I think I understand where you're coming from, and that's all the definitions. How confident are you that burning sage cleanses your emotional body? A scale of 1 to 100, 100 being I'm absolutely certain that it's this sage that
Like a
calms
6.
my emotions.
Like a 6 out of
6
10.
out of 10? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do it out of 10. So a little more than half,
Yeah.
but not all the way to 10.
Yeah.
What brings you to that level of a 6? Why do you think that it's sage transforming your emotions?
I don't know what brings it to a 6. I think it's like anything we like. Like looking at a mountain while I was driving here, like beauty. I like beauty. I like pleasant smells. I like being reminded of nature. I like how sage reminds me of camping. It reminds me of beautiful things, which may be what is transforming my emotional
Interesting.
state of being.
So
The
the
enjoyment.
smell
Yeah.
and the movement and the beauty and the sensory input, maybe?
Yeah,
Like it,
yeah. So
It's
my
nice.
senses are interpreting it, and it's reminding me of peaceful, like wholesome, good qualities in my life that I can almost tap into that with that smell and the movement. I think movement's very helpful as well.
so the combination of the smell and the movement
Yeah.
and being able to like calm your mind and focus on something nice, beautiful, and pleasant that you like. Do you think it would be different if you had some dried rosemary, perhaps, and you burned some rosemary
Yes.
and did the same things? You
Yes.
think it would be a different effect?
It would.
What would be different about that?
Because my connection with the smell of rosemary doesn't trigger the same responses.
Okay.
Even though I do like rosemary. It's not quite the same though.
So it's particularly the smell of sage?
See, I never really broke it down, but the smell, yeah, it's
Because you could do the same movements and everything. So I'm just trying to get
yeah,
to
with
the
something
bottom.
else.
What is the base cause? And
Yeah.
if you could do the same movements with another,
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be the
thing.
same.
so it's more
don't
about the
think so.
smell of the sage than the movement.
Do you think the smell of campfire, which also would create those same emotional feelings in you, do you think that would bring about the same kind of emotional cleansing?
If you had a campfire
It's
candle.
not the same. It's not the same.
So there's
But,
something specific to the sage.
yeah, yeah.
It's not just the smell, there's something in the sage.
And I would say it's also true of Palo Santo, which is a wood that people burn. I don't know what it is, but there's something really beautiful and cleansing that Palo Santo does for me too.
Okay.
Nice.
Are there like commonalities in the scent between Palo Santo and sage?
The commonalities are there is a collective belief around spiritual powers with those two things. So you can go into any metaphysical store and buy Palo Santo and sage. So I've kind of experienced. I go into those stores and I have white copal too, which I really like as well. And so, yeah, big belief sets, and I know a lot of Native Americans really believe that sage has the spiritual cleansing powers. So that's probably why it showed up in my realities, because it's very popular and it's abundant on the planet. But as I break it down, I don't know if it's those things. But the smell and the interaction I have created with it is a positive thing for me.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you think if, let's say, as we were talking about earlier, rosemary was accepted as a more common spiritual herb to
That's a
burn,
great question.
do you think that you would have a similar or the same effect with sage?
I don't know. I would say no, because I just don't feel like I like the smell as much. But there's something there. I mean, it's possible.
So part of it is just the actual smell of sage.
Yeah, I think I just love the smell. But I also associate it with many really positive times in my life. Hanging out with my girlfriends, loving myself and my home enough to like take a moment, a pause to do what I can to make it, what I believe to make it feel better.
Like a
So I might
ritual
be
of-
creating that.
And you're also
A
associating it
ritual,
with
yeah,
a
is positive.
knowledge base that says this has mystical, so you kind of have three things going on here.
Yeah.
Someone has told you that it's, or you've learned that
Yeah.
it's got this mystical, you like the smell of it,
Yeah.
and then it brings about this emotional memory.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what I want to get down to is how much is like a placebo effect and how much is a valid, like if we were to do some kind of test, and it's probably specific for each person who does it, right? Like how do we know the sage is doing the calming versus
Yeah.
I want this to calm me, or I want to be have the peace
The
and
cleansing,
balance,
or-
and I've been told that this works. Is there any kind of study we could do to actually test this that you
Ooh,
can think of?
is there a study I think there are probably some studies to test emotional well-being. Maybe.
And it would all
I
be
bet you can
self-reported.
study
anyways,
heart
right?
rate, breath, and like the more calm, I'm sure that means more balance. So I bet there's something that could be studied.
Yeah, I wonder if you could do like, you get a group of people and they do the same exact thing with sage, a group of people who do the same thing with what's the other one?
Palo Santo.
Palo Santo, a group of people who use lemon juice.
Yeah,
And a group
and
of
see
like,
like
and
the
just
well-being
like,
and the heart
yeah,
rate
and check your emotional
yeah,
before and after, and see like maybe
It
sage
could be
has the
studied.
highest one,
it's
and then
possible.
we'd be like, that really works.
I wish I
I'm
brought
gonna do
some.
that.
so
And,
we
and I
could
wonder if you would
experiment.
have to actually smell it. For instance, you had a cold and you lost your sense
Oh,
of smell,
COVID
and
issues or
and someone was burning sage around you. Would you
Yeah.
still
I
experience
wonder.
this feeling, or do you have to smell it?
It could be studied.
Would it
Yeah,
work
with
with
people
like
that
the
don't
smell
know.
of bacon or something?
I know, right? It
I
just
feel
Jim
that.
Gaffigan.
I bet bacon has that effect.
Right. So that's just really interesting.
I will say a year ago, or even 2 years ago, I would have said it was like spiritually cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm open to it just being something that is a positive thing I've created.
So what
in
would
my
bring,
life.
if there's something you could learn that would bring your number 6 level confidence down even lower?
Oh, down to
Like
What-
if they
what
did
do
a
you-
study like that,
Oh.
and it said like the lemon juice group had the most
positive.
calming effects as far as heart rate.
I would be open to
self-reporting.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Start.
I
Switch
value
to lemon juice.
evidence combined with high placement on my own
Yeah.
personal experience with it.
And
I would
what could
value
bring you
that.
up on the scale?
Well, if the evidence came back that sage has
Same
a
kind of
powerful
thing.
impact on helping people feel better.
Awesome.
It was
I'm
studied.
wondering.
Another question?
Yeah, so maybe another kind of question to clarify would be, does the smell of sage make you feel better, or is there something chemically within sage itself
That's a good question.
that affects the brain or the body that makes it feel emotionally or spiritually better?
Yeah.
That's where the testing would come in, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
man,
would
I'm
be
getting hungry.
fascinating. It's a barbecue.
Yeah.
No, that would be fascinating.
Parsley, sage,
yeah.
rosemary, and thyme.
Right. Yeah, are the reliance on our 5 senses, is that what determines truth?
Yeah.
Um,
And really, if
that
it
is
works
one
for you,
method.
it works for you.
I have a movie
Right?
for you to
Yeah.
watch. It's called Perfect Sense.
Okay.
It's
CNTS?
SENSE.
Oh,
It's a really interesting movie in which there's some sort of, I don't know, COVID-like thing that the entire world starts losing their senses one at a time,
Oh, wow.
and how we adapt to that. So I
Yeah.
think that'd be
Oh,
very
I think that'd be
interesting for you to
interesting.
watch
I'd
that.
love
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's do one more. What time is it?
Ooh, extraterrestrial. That's another good one. I'd love to have a go at some.
Let's do one of you three. Want to volunteer to be the interlocutor?
There's some good
No?
ones.
You just have to have an opinion on a statement. You don't have to fully.
And it doesn't have, it certainly shouldn't, it doesn't have to be 100%.
Go for
It probably wouldn't be 100%, but
It's like
I think this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you're going for random. Oh.
This is a great one.
Okay.
Okay, John.
Oh, this is good for you.
Yeah, this is really good for you. Yes, this is a good one.
choice. John, what's your claim today? Does anyone want to be the question asker?
Am I claiming this?
Yeah, this is your claim.
You can
I'm
claim.
claiming
Didn't
this.
You can
Literally
claim that you
claim
believe
that.
it or disbelieve it, or
You can, anywhere on the scale of belief,
Oh, okay.
from 0
Yes.
to 100, or. Okay, so say what your claim is.
The more people believe something, the more likely it is to be true.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
The more people that believe something, the more likely it is to be true.
I kind of want to be the questioner, but I kind of also don't.
You can be the
You have really great questions.
Okay.
Come down to 5 words or less.
I'm not confident that I'm the best at asking questions that are like
things
concise.
of the questions come back up.
Oh, there we go.
That will help
Try not
guide
to
him.
express your own opinions, just asking about his.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, we're putting the questions back up here, kind of
The guy.
keep you on track.
Yeah. The kind of the guiding questions. The the kind of the typical like confidence interval kind of definitions, stuff like that. I'm not quite acquainted with the I guess the.
Just have to
There we go.
Okay.
reword those.
Do you want to take notes, or do you want to, I find it helpful, but some people don't.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Because then you can look back and say, well, you said
Well, yeah.
this.
Well, yeah, that would be
then-
that would be so
so-
awesome, but I haven't prepared any of that. I don't know.
Yeah, just give it a try.
Okay.
We're here to practice. We're here to learn. We're here to
Okay.
give it a try. Okay, so John's claim.
Okay, so
Is that my claim?
You can claim that you
That's
just-
disbelieve
it's
it
a
or
statement.
believe it,
Yeah.
or
okay, so
Level of belief.
the more people that believe something, the more likely it is to be true. So what's your confidence interval, you'd say, like on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 100?
That would
Or-
be 100% false.
100% false?
oh,
Oh.
100%.
The more people
not.
believe something, the more likely it is to be true. Okay.
so your confidence
So-
level is 0.
0%.
So now you clarify.
Do you want a
the
Sharpie instead?
definition.
I don't- Whatever you want.
Okay. So. Okay.
I thought you were going to say the opposite. So no.
Yeah, I was gonna think that too, because you
Well,
were
it's kinda what
talking
you were
about
saying.
like my truth and whatever, but I guess they could actually work in some ways. So what does truth mean in this specific?
Well, I mean, I think that's
circumstance?
that right there is a definition of truth, which is the more people believe something, I think the better question would be, what is belief,
Uh-huh.
right? But, we're using belief and truth to be almost synonymous there, which they're not. And to me, truth is something that's absolute.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I don't think that there is anything that's absolute,
Mm-hmm.
or that can be proven to be absolute.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the statement that the more people that believe in something, the more likely it is to be true. Well, there's so many definitions in there. You have belief, you have likely,
There's
you have
probability.
truth. There's so many things in there. Just because a lot of people believe something doesn't make it true.
Okay. What do you define as belief then? In this specific circumstance, this question.
Something.
Or maybe a for example.
I would say belief is something that you are making assumptions of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I like that definition.
Yeah, that's a good one. Unknown. Do you think? Okay, people also use the word believe in like believing what is true. And people can think that they know something based on certain kinds of evidences, but they can still believe that it's true. So there's like.
But it's still an assumption at that point.
Yeah. So it's still so there's still like some level like of assumption you're saying,
Of
right?
unknown.
Yeah, some level of unknown. Okay.
Good definition.
Yeah.
And
I
yet
think
you're at 0%, so you're
Well, because my truth.
100% confident that
Well,
there's
because it comes to
that
definitions,
can't
right?
happen.
And words matter. Because
Okay.
the words you use matter. So truth to
Yeah.
me or what the word true is an absolute. And we as humans like to use true as, hey, this is true, which is an absolute
Fact.
It's definitive. And if we're going to use truth in that sense, and that's the definition, then this statement is 100% false.
Yeah, because just categorically, the way that you define things, because you define belief as assumptions
Right.
for things that are not known. And if you can't really know something, it can't be verified as completely 100% true, no matter how many people necessarily believe it.
Right.
Okay.
And I would say that it has been, like, I'll just let you answer your questions, or ask your questions.
Okay.
Are you identifying confidence level now, or are you still clarifying definitions?
I think I'm still. I guess you could say both. Okay. So, do you think though that usually a lot of common things that people believe tend to be closer to the truth? Or do you think it depends? What situations would you say that applies?
I mean, that's kind of a weird statement. I would say maybe closer to their truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure. I mean, if somebody believes something and they want it to be their truth, then they are formulating and building something to validate their belief system so that it becomes true to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they rest on that basis to justify it as their truth.
Mm-hmm.
But that wouldn't be a universal truth.
It's not an absolute. It's not true for someone.
It's not true to everybody.
Right.
Have you always felt this way?
I mean, have I always? Probably not as a child, because I mean, I think as you grow, you become more inquisitive and start to figure things out for yourself. And so for me, I would say probably it's just evolved over time.
No
I mean,
specific
as a-
incident, but as an
As
adult?
a 10-year-old, I'm not like wondering about what truth is.
Have you pretty much always felt this way as an adult?
I would say yes, pretty much this way as an adult.
What gave you the impression that that might be the way that you think about truth? What gave you that impression that was
Like that truth is an absolute?
Yeah.
Or I think it's just about how you define words and those definitions, right? So for me, it depends on how people use words in sentences, and words, language matters. And so people will throw around things like, oh, this is true, I know it. Well, then you start digging into how is it true and how do you know it?
Yeah.
And then you understand that it's not necessarily true. They just deeply believe it's something.
So
And because their
yeah.
belief system is telling them that it is true, then they're using the word true to put that definitive statement out there so that it gives weight to it, and that weight can be used and thrown around to other people inside
It's
of
like the missionaries in the video, right? They're
Sure.
strongly convicted.
I know it.
Yeah,
Right, I
so
know.
it's a strong conviction.
And there you're using
but
two.
not
You're using two words,
necessarily
right? You're
truth.
like, I know it's true. It's
Mhm.
like
You're claiming to know.
there's a definitive statement. There's two definitive statements.
Okay, so you've come to build this sort of view of truth from critically examining people's beliefs and finding out that when they're talking about truth and what they know to be completely different things, and so that's why you define truth as something separate, and as being absolute, right?
Well, I think that if you look at, I mean, it's not just that, but I would say if you look at human civilizations as a whole over time, they have consistently proven themselves to be false
Yeah.
on whatever their truth is at any given time.
Yeah.
Like
So,
what?
I mean, you could say Salem witch trials. You could say, you know, the 1300s when the earth was flat. You could say the Greeks when, you know, they thought that, you know, the earth was the center of the universe. I mean, there's consistent belief systems that humans had to answer the supernatural and the unknown at the time. They've created belief systems around that, which was their truth. And I'm not saying that it's not true. To them, it was true, right? Because they didn't know any different.
Yeah.
But that absolute, that
Sounds like
definitive,
they accepted it as a truth.
yeah, that definitive value of saying, hey, this is a definite, and we're defining this as the absolute of how it is today, isn't necessarily true. It's just that it was a belief system that they believed in. And just because all of them believed in it, like all the Greeks thought that the earth was the center of the universe, does that mean that it was likely true?
No.
No, that's completely false.
No,
So
more likely.
Right, more likely true. So the thing is, for me, it's like we've consistently seen that these are falsities. I mean, if we're going to talk about evidence and like testing this over time, I mean, I think that humans have shown, at least with belief systems and understandings in any given point in time, they've consistently been wrong, and we keep evolving. That statement right there would be 100% false.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a new truth that's going to be uncovered, and we will understand this over time. And what our truth is today, we don't know everything, and these things will consistently evolve over time. 100 years from now, they'll probably look at us and think we were crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think? Okay, so. Yeah, I think that's all right. So, do you think? Would there be anything that would change your confidence interval, either by, I guess you can't really lower it. Anything that can increase your confidence interval, that could make you think differently?
I wouldn't say absolutely no, but it would take something that I would say would be completely out of this world. And even then, I'd be like, well, that might be true today. But again, and it's my instance, right? It's my existence, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how long I have left on this planet, but I don't know how many new discoveries might be made that might change my specific truth and existence today.
Okay.
I think we have to try to pare our questions down, because the longer they are, the more
Yeah.
because actually,
The definitions.
if you read this question from purely a mathematical and probability, the more people that believe something, the more
Yeah.
likely it is to be true. And I would say, from a probability standpoint, I would say that that's
Statistically,
probably true, that an idea comes out, and then as people start to sign on to that and start to believe that, and common opinion changes, because if it
Yeah.
never catches on, then it's probably not true. If it catches on, it might be true. It might
doesn't-
be true. It doesn't make it more true, but it does make it more probable.
Yeah.
also,
that
does
it's
it
likely
depend
to
on
be
the
true.
people?
But I would say not true. I would say accepted.
Accept it. Okay.
Right.
More likely that it's true. It's
Accepted
not
as true.
doesn't say that it is true. So it's we're kind of saying the
Yeah.
same thing, but using totally different words to do that.
Right, but when
You're right. It is
But
more
when you
accepted.
start talking about like science or anything else, because at the same time you could say part of that is, I mean, I would go into the side of saying part of that is money and power. You know, if I have an idea and I have the money and power to put it out there, and I'm a really good marketer,
Mhm.
I can convince a lot of people that this is true.
You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. You're absolutely right.
Right.
And that happens all the time.
Yeah, and
You're
people,
absolutely
people
right.
get sucked into that, and they'll go in and they'll start to believe it until it's proven that it's not true.
That's
We've
right.
seen that all
Sometimes
the
Yep.
time.
Yep. You're absolutely right about that. I just, like I said, if I
Sugar
read
industry.
this just from a math and probability, yes, it is more likely when more people sign on to it, but it still doesn't make it science or fact at all, and probability doesn't factor into that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So
So,
shorten those down.
Yeah.
Bigfoot exists. We'll
That was a
define
good one. I mean, that's pretty,
yeah.
There's 2 words to define.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a complex.
I would think that that this implies, like, saying that when people believe something, it becomes more true. It implies causation. But I think, like, it can be. I guess what people can believe can be true, like, can be close to truth, but that doesn't necessarily make it more true by them believing it.
Right.
Irrational exuberance in the stock market in 1999. It's like, why are people
Everybody's
doing
going.
this? Because everybody's doing this, and in everybody doing this, people are starting to
Yeah.
make it true until somebody says, "This is
Hold
getting
on.
scary. I'm going to back out," and someone else watches someone else walk out the door, and then it also takes it down in the same way.
It's like
So
the
yes.
mob mentality. starts
Exactly.
to-
So yeah, this is like I said, it talks about probability, but then it also seems to be implying, or at least asking the question, whether or not
Yeah.
we're changing truth by believing it.
Only if the truth is, like, relative to us. Like, if something with markets, like, if someone's perception on markets affects the markets, then yes,
Sure it does.
Yeah.
someone's truth affects the truth, obviously. But that's not always and frequently isn't the case with the universe, as a lot of the times.
Right.
There's just a lot of things that are completely indifferent to our own beliefs, and so that's just
Exactly.
So yeah, we should take a look at our questions, and I love that Bigfoot
Yeah.
exists. That's like, okay, that's
Who wanted
Cut
to
and
do
dry.
that?
Let's do one more. Melanie, do you want to ask the questions this time? I think you'd be good at it.
Okay,
Want
okay.
to give it a go?
The
And
questions
who
right
would like to be the interlocutor?
So you build
Anybody?
rapport.
Oh, you have the picture of
Yeah.
it. Anybody? Deb,
okay.
want me to
All right.
answer?
How you doing today? I'm building a rapport.
Okay. I'm looking
That's
for.
awesome.
The weather's great.
Okay, we'll go with this one here.
Okay. We will be reincarnated when we die. That's a good one.
Here's my terrible handwriting.
No, that's great. Because I'm not going to read it anyway.
Yeah.
It's for your own.
What is your claim about reincarnation?
Well, okay, so just my claim about reincarnation, or about specifically that wording?
I want to know your
Say your
beliefs.
claim
Yeah,
first.
My claim about
yeah.
reincarnation. I think it's possible that we could be reincarnated.
Is that a
Well,
definitive?
this is the claim. Saying it's possible is not necessarily a claim. This is like a positive statement. We will be reincarnated when we die.
Well, then I'd have to have a lower than
So-
50% confidence level on
Yeah.
that statement.
And many people would say that. So for the sake of the
Unless you-
improv, do you want to make that claim?
That we will be reincarnated when we die.
Yeah.
Because if you go with a claim that says like it's possible or maybe if, like it's so nebulous it doesn't really go
Right,
anywhere. So-
right. Well, I'm not a real black and white kind of a person, so
I
it's,
know, with people like us, it's a little more challenging,
Yeah.
but some people would make that statement.
oh, well, that one's
Oh.
right up my alley.
We've done
Okay.
that.
Okay. And you're the only one who's heard it.
Okay then.
Okay,
This is
All
gonna
right.
be
so
great.
ghosts and spirits are real.
Okay, so I'm understanding that you believe ghosts and spirits are real.
I do.
What is a ghost or a spirit?
So to me, a ghost or a spirit is someone who actually lived here on Earth once upon a time and has passed on, and yet there's something left, something palpable that you can feel that's still here,
Okay, you can feel it, so you can touch a ghost.
possibly. What is under my feet here? Oh, cords.
It's like some sort of essence. Like there's this essence.
Okay.
That's
Okay. So, ooh, I might need help with this one.
Yeah, you could ask, what do you mean by real?
Yeah, okay. What, yeah, that's better. Yeah, so
Take notes.
you can't touch a ghost. Can you see a ghost?
I have.
Oh, okay. So,
So get a confidence scale. How?
oh, okay,
What's your
okay.
confidence?
Yeah, I'm trying to follow the list.
Yeah, it's kind of
Clarified
vague.
definition. So
And it
yeah,
just takes
okay,
practice.
so you've seen it,
Mhm.
you've seen one, have you felt one?
No, I've not touched it. It was probably 12 feet away from me.
Okay, feel like, if you have a friend in a room, you can like feel their presence. Could you feel, like emotionally feel their presence?
I think it was mostly visual.
Mm-hmm.
It was not someone that I knew.
Oh. Did it ignite a lot of thoughts about who this person might be?
Sure, it did.
Did it look like a human?
Yes,
Really?
yes.
Was it wearing clothes? Now I'm just
Yes.
curious.
Yes. It was a old woman,
Mhm.
and I was visiting somebody's house and spending the night. So I was in an unknown room, and it was in the middle of the night, and I woke up, and in the doorway was this woman. She was life-sized. Like the bed was in the way, so I couldn't see below the knees, but I could see from head down to the knees anyway. Dressed in this little pinafore, kind of like the Waltons, and she just seemed to be like making sure I had everything I wanted. I didn't feel any hostility, just, have you got everything you need, honey, kind of a thing. It was a grandmotherly kind of an influence, it felt.
Okay, so you can kind of feel like a grandma.
So yeah, there was a little emotion. I felt this,
Yeah.
I felt good intent, and I felt grandmotherly,
Yeah.
but mostly it was visual.
I feel people's essences. Yeah, I think there's something to that.
Actually, this is one question.
Sure.
So how much could you move in that situation? Like how mobile were you in that situation?
So you're trying to determine whether or not I was in a dream, because that was the first thing that I thought.
Or sleep paralysis.
So that was
Sleep
exactly what I thought.
Hallucination.
And so to test whether or not I was dreaming, the first thing I did, Mike, do you see this? So, I wanted to wake somebody else up, and he would not wake up. And so I thought, how am I going to know if this is a dream in the morning? So what I did was I turned physically to this nightstand that was next to me, and had all kinds of little bottles and stuff on it. And this is not a place that I'm familiar with at all. I've never spent the night here before. And I physically grabbed my hands and did this to my eyes, and I looked at everything that was on this nightstand and tried to memorize it. The thing is, when I woke up in the morning, I wanted to be able to look at that and know that everything that I memorized was on that nightstand. And in the morning, I woke up and I looked at that nightstand. It's like, oh, that was real. And then I asked my husband, do you remember? He's like, yeah. He says, but I was tired. So he also was awake whenever I tried to wake him up.
So the dream explanation couldn't work.
Right.
So I guess there would be two more explanations in my head.
You're not trying to disprove her.
I know. I'm not trying to.
Yeah, this is-
but
No,
I'm
it's
just.
good.
I'm
It's
trying
not
to.
a
I'm trying
debate.
to ask questions. So I'm trying to ask questions. Whether or not it could be. These two other things. So, I don't know. I guess asking. How
Is
do
it
you know
possible that
Yeah. Is it possible that it could have been a hallucination, or do you think it could have been like an actual person that may have?
Well, and the question might be, not to interrupt you, but I think I would probably ask, how did you determine that it
Yeah.
was a spirit or a ghost?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was. That was
Yeah,
kind
you
of
don't
the
wanna
sort
be-
of.
As
you don't wanna
opposed
be
to a
like-
Because I don't want to lead, or put ideas into her mind.
Okay.
How did you know it wasn't a real person?
How did you determine?
So the visual that I saw was on a translucency scale. I mean, it was somewhat translucent. So it was fairly solid, but it was definitely not solid enough to be an actual person. So there was some sort of a smoky quality to it.
Did you consider that maybe time doesn't exist and that it was more an overlap of different timelines? I know that's kind of a big question, but it might not be a ghost. We might be living all time periods at once, and in this here and now space, we were able to open a portal of awareness, and that it was actually happening
Interdimensional.
now.
And
As opposed
so,
to-
one, I would say, at the
I know
time,
that's-
no, I did not I did not consider that. Two,
But now that you are.
All timelines are
I
happening
do
at
have,
once.
I do have similar beliefs that time is
Doesn't really exist.
overlaps,
Yeah.
all over itself. And second of all, is that not sort of the definition of a ghost or a
ghost.
spirit that has crossed back over and has folded over into our time space?
I've had the same experience
That's
twice as you have, and once I was with somebody else who saw the same thing. I think heavens. It's
That's
so.
awesome.
Did you
incredible.
It
determine
is
it was a
incredible,
ghost?
isn't it?
Did you determine it was a spirit? Were you?
Yeah,
How did you determine that?
because it was translucent.
And it was human-like.
Oh, very human-like,
Did you
yes.
throw anything at it?
No, I did not
See
throw
if
anything
went
at it.
Through it?
I did
You
not.
could've
I would
thrown
imagine with what I
things.
saw that it would have gone through it.
Yeah, throw something from the bedstand, and then you would see it on the floor in the morning, and then you would see it missing over here.
Or just ask it to
That
catch
might have
it.
woken a lot of people up.
So how confident are you that it was a ghost? By definition.
I would say I'm about 85% confident.
Because you had another witness, you were able to test it by looking at the nightstand, and you were aware that you were awake enough that you knew you were not
Yeah, because
asleep.
that would have been the very first thing that I would have thought, this is just a really real feeling dream.
Right.
And I ruled that out. Now, the other 15%, it's like, okay, was somebody playing an elaborate hoax on me?
Did you have any medications or anything
No.
that would alter your brain?
No, I don't.
Drugs or anything?
Nope.
Yeah, like another question would be, because like this is actually a very there's a lot of commonality. I knew someone who had a similar sort of thing. Like it's really interesting. Like these kinds of hallucinations can happen like right, or at least I don't know. I guess I would assume they're hallucinations, but I don't know. They could be real ghosts. I don't know.
It's right before sleep or after sleep, right?
Yeah, it's usually like after, and I knew someone who saw, something similar to that, after.
I'm thinking it was somewhere around 1:30 in the morning.
Even if that's a common experience, it doesn't prove that ghosts or spirits aren't real.
Yeah. But, it
And maybe the more people that believe in spirits and ghosts makes it more likely to be true.
Or I guess technically not.
Or
In his
because
case, I
more
guess,
people
according to
have
the
had an experience like that.
Yeah.
But, again, what is the alternative explanation? I don't believe for a second that I was hallucinating. I'm the kind of person who doesn't even make a very good hypnosis subject because my brain is so, I don't know what the word is there.
You're very conscious in your mind.
I am very.
Because hypnosis requires almost kind of falling asleep and just letting go.
Right.
So where did you first hear about ghosts or spirits? Like if you had never heard of them and then you had this experience, how would you explain it to yourself?
So, I think I recall a story that my grandma had told me about her mom seeing, I don't think she said that it was a human-like form, just some smoke and some family member had just died and she called the name and the smoke disappeared. I recall my grandma telling me a story like that once. And then something that I think made an impression upon me, or maybe it only made an impression in retrospect after seeing this, was poltergeists. And I remember when I first saw that movie, and her husband comes home, she's like, oh wait, you've got to see this, just suspend, try to take yourself back to being this more believing child, suspend your imagination and watch this. And she puts, I can't remember what it was, something there, and then it moves on its own. So it's, suspend your mind, and she was, just awed. It was awesome. It was awesome, wasn't it? It was incredible. It wasn't scary. It was, I wished I knew how to make that happen.
Right.
Again, I'd love to experience it again.
Okay. So you believe ghosts and spirits are real because of your personal experience.
Right?
And so what I'm learning from this is like there's a lot of methodologies to determine truth, personal experience, a trust and authority that we put in a lot of time, and okay, I feel good about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, good job.
Any more?
Yeah. So, what do you think would lower your confidence in your own observation?
If I found out that my husband's Uncle Tony had created some elaborate projection, something or other.
Or maybe that your mind may not be as infallible as you may think.
I'm open-minded, but to think that my mind's fallible, fallible in a crazy envision way.
Not necessarily. You know, a lot of just seemingly like normal people can have these in their lifetimes. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical about them.
She's lived with her mind all these years. She kind of knows what she can trust, right?
Yeah. So you've
I was a reliable 6-year-old.
I don't know what reliability of gaslighting I guess would be necessary.
So if you found out it was a hoax and they came to you and said, we did this,
Hologram that.
yeah, we projected this with a
or
projector.
maybe
Is there anything else you could learn that would change your confidence level?
I mean, I suppose there could be I could be subjected to some sort of documentary that talks about lots and lots of people who are very TJ thinking people, not, touchy-feely people who had some sort of hallucination, and they were able to prove that somehow with brain something or other that there was a
like
hallucination.
A neurological study.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
was
what I
able
was
to
gonna.
explain
Yes.
it.
That's
Maybe,
what I was gonna ask.
But
and said, this is
Yeah.
what happens.
they would have
when
to
these
show me.
things are triggered.
They would have to show me that was the case for people who were very much like me, which are very realistic thinking,
And it would have to be
people.
repeatable, right?
and it would have to be
like
repeatable.
like
Yes.
a
Not just a
documented
one-
effect, like a
yeah.
documented
Yeah.
psychological effect that happens, under these certain set of conditions.
Yeah.
And here's the triggers, and we can recreate this over and over.
No, they found a
Doing these
brain
things,
tumor,
And it works
Or
on
an
you, and it works on
implant.
her, and yeah.
Some sort of technological implant. The CIA is known for, and then there's these massive programs on this earth like MK Ultra where they'll do like this voice of God technology and they'll put things in people's ears and then
Yes.
they'll run voices. So there's like many
So
layers.
something like that.
Yeah, if that could be proven.
But I'm open to stuff.
Well, because
Like
you're
that.
at 85, which leaves
Yeah, well,
15%.
I was probably at like 60 before this happened to
Uh-huh.
me. And obviously it's like, whoa, happened to me.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know
already
your
were at like an
experience.
over 50%.
Yeah, I think that I thought that more likely than not that there's just so many people with stories. It's just hard to discount all of them. So I thought, well, it's probably likely that weird
But
stuff
the more
happens.
stories you hear,
Yes.
the more likely it's true.
Yes.
Well,
But I still
Maybe it is.
I still had to experience it myself.
And there's lots of things that could be true that just can't be proven.
Right.
Like, we don't know.
Absolutely.
We don't have
And like
the
time
testing.
folding on its, and like I
Yeah.
said, so what's the difference?
that's what I want to know is
We-
like, okay, I don't doubt your story and I don't doubt that I would also call it a ghost or a spirit, but what I want to understand, which I know I can never really fully understand in human form, is there a soul with that ghost, and is she actually, why is that soul expressing as that body with these clothes on in this
At that
room
time,
at that
yeah.
time for you to perceive it when the soul is probably, no longer in physical form? Like, where is that? Is that an aspect?
The
There's a
details,
whole other-
the motivation behind it.
Yeah, like why would this appear? And that's why I go into like other, like was it a portal into perceiving another time period, which is an
And she was dressed a little bit,
different time period.
a little bit different time period. Still in my lifetime, but or at
So
least
maybe it's not a ghost. but
the
it's a
fashion they hung on to it for a few years, but
But noticeably not
yes,
currently.
yes, they
modern
weren't
dress.
they weren't wearing the 17th century
right.
garments or anything.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Yeah, well, thanks for participating. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Participating.
Participating, everybody, today. This has been super fun. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn off the recording right now. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.